Hey guys, thanks for watching another Jaguars United video. Before we jump into this video, make sure that you follow us on all of our social media. On Twitter, we're at Jaguars_United. On Instagram, we're at Jaguars_United. You can also check out our website if you want to read some sweet articles or pick up some nice apparel. This conversation is a little bit from our podcast with Treeb from Treeb Talks, so we hope you enjoy. We're just having a general conversation about the Jags today because we wanted to kick off the podcast, the restarting of the podcast with just general talk with the Jags. And I'm doing that, and I'm honored to be doing that with one of my good buddies, one of my day one homies when it comes to the Jaguar community, famous Jaguars YouTuber, Treeb from Treeb Talks. Treeb, all the way from the central/west coast, how is it going?
The central west coast is the Pacific Northwest, and the Pacific Northwest best Jaguar YouTuber. I think you're honestly blessed to have one of the best Jaguars YouTubers on your channel. I'm doing terrific, and I would not want to be anywhere else than sitting here talking to you about my favorite team, your favorite team, and your mom's favorite team, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of like Pacific Northwest Jacksonville Jaguars YouTubers, the first thing that comes to mind is Treeb Talks. Like it really is. Like it is. It just like comes instantly to mind. So yeah, I think you have that market on lock, and I'm so proud of you. And I can't believe you've come this far, right before our very eyes.
This team, like you said, is realistically a couple of years away from, contending from that big one. But you look at where this team is during the AFC South, I realistically still don't think this AFC South is a powerhouse division. A lot of people see the addition of Phillip Rivers to the Indianapolis Colts as a key addition that will make this team a real threat, not only in the AFC South, but to the AFC. I haven't really done a deep dive into the AFC South on my YouTube channel, so I haven't really been able to share my own personal opinions on the Colts and the AFC South as a whole. What does the addition of Phillip Rivers and the Indianapolis Colts do for the Colts, and what is your thoughts on the AFC South as a whole division this year?
Well, I mean, first off with Phillip Rivers, yeah, Phillip Rivers is an upgrade at quarterback. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, no doubt about it. He's going to make any team instantly better because of his ability to play. But the Colts, Phillip Rivers now has a small window of winning. You're looking at 1-2 maybe year window where they can be competitive, and even the guys they drafted aren't guys that are going to give you any type of look down the road. They drafted the running back from Wisconsin who already had 4 years of being the feature back at running back snaps under his belt, and so running backs don't usually have longevity. The team, maybe they're good this year. Maybe they win the division this year with Phillip Rivers. Maybe they compete with Houston, and but outside of 1 or 2 years, then what? Then they're in salary cap issues. They have no quarterback. Phillip Rivers you're not going to be drafting in like the top 3 with Phillip Rivers as your quarterback, so you're not going to be able to draft a good one. So it's interesting to see. The Colts have set themselves up nicely in 2021. They actually have the most projected cap space of any team in the league. So they have the ability to go out and get some players and to sign some free agents. But as far as next year, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. The Colts are usually a well-run team. So, and as far as the AFC South goes, Houston goes as Deshaun Watson goes. If he suffers another injury, he's kind of injury prone, then the team's there. And I think the Titans are extremely overrated. They have $150 million tied up in their quarterback and their running back, and that's just not usually a recipe for success.
Let's go back to Houston. Deshaun Watson, no doubt about that, is a great quarterback. Has had some injury issues in the past, but how much is the loss of DeAndre Hopkins going to hurt this team? Deshaun Watson has grown up in his career having that elite wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins. Now he does have David Johnson, and David Johnson by no means he's not a bad running back, but he also is injury prone. And, I think Houston personally takes a step back this year. And, I think as far as the AFC South goes, I think the top of the division is going to be kind of fought between Tennessee and Indianapolis this season. What is your projection on Houston?
Yeah, Houston, it was really interesting what happened with DeAndre Hopkins. And the only justifiable answer is that Bill O'Brien and Hopkins didn't get along because DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best receivers in football. The only other thing you could look at is, do they like what they have behind him? Will Fuller, Kenny Stills, Randall Cobb, Brandon Cooks. Like, they have some guys now that they kind of fill in behind that spot with DeAndre Hopkins. And if DeAndre Hopkins is going to be, demanding top tier money, and Bill O'Brien looks at his offense and looks at his squad and looks at his quarterback, and he says, I can get away with a bunch of guys that paying less than him, then he made the right move for his team. But as a whole, their offensive line, it's always going to be an issue. The defense, J.J. Watt hasn't really contributed in a couple years, and I don't know. They have a lot of missing pieces, and if they get lucky and they don't get injured and they catch some breaks, then I think they could make the playoffs like they did last year. But they're one of those tweener teams that it could go either way depending on the roll of the dice.
I think that's kind of how the whole AFC South is built, and I think Jacksonville kind of falls in that category. If Gardner Minshew plays to the potential that he did last year in a full 16-game season, and some of these key players that they need to step up do step up, then I think Jacksonville kind of falls into that same category as every team in the AFC South. They have some talent on the offensive side of the ball that could really get them there, especially, in my opinion, from the pass catchers, the tight ends, and the wide receivers. I just recently broke down the wide receivers in a position outlook. In my opinion, I think this is the best wide receiver room that the Jaguars have had in a really, really long time. I'm very high on a lot of these guys. I want to know your take on the Jaguars wide receivers. I've seen the face you made, and I need to see what kind of takes you got.
Yeah, that's pretty bold. There's no doubt that the receivers have not been good in a while, but you think back to that Allen Hurns, Allen Robinson, Marquise Lee squad that we had.
That was like a one-year thing, though. There's a lot of guys in this room right now that could be sticking around for a couple of years.
So you got DJ Chark, who is, he's not as good as Allen Robinson, but he's good. Then you're not a fan of Dede Westbrook, so that's out the window there.
I think Dede Westbrook opens the door, though, as far as having like a whole core of guys that are talented. You know what I mean?
Who would you throw the ball to confidently on this team? DJ Chark? That's it.
DJ Chark, Chris Conley.
Chris Conley is okay. He's good at like the slant routes, and Chris
Conley's underrated. I think Chris Conley is also underrated as far as being a vertical threat too. I think later on in the season he came along as being more of a vertical threat. You've seen it in like the Atlanta game, for example, that 40-yard pass from Minshew. You've seen it in the Kansas City game as well. And Minshew is building this kind of chemistry with these wide receivers, and I think Chris Conley is one of them. And that's kind of why I was talking about Dede Westbrook not, really blowing me away, because Gardner didn't really throw to Dede that much. They don't really have that much of natural chemistry. I think Gardner's building that kind of chemistry with Chris Conley. He does it well after the catch in the short game, and I think he's also coming around to doing it more in the deep game, in the deep ball game, in the vertical game, and he's doing it. And DJ Chark could do it. And then you got younger guys like Colin Johnson, Libiscus Chanel, that I think can also really add to this wide receiver group as well.
You could convince me that Colin Johnson, Libiscus Chanel, even Chris Conley are going to play better than expected. Even so, I don't think that's a unit that's like the best we've ever had or anywhere close.
Not the best that we've ever had, but the best that we've had. Well, you look back at Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns, it was Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns.
Yeah, those were two 1,000-yard receivers. Then you threw in Marquise Lee, who had a good year in 2017, and Dede Westbrook came on in 2018.
Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns wasn't a 2017 duo, though. That was like a
2015, 2016. Yeah. But I don't know. Chris Conley, he had an 862 PFF grading. He was the 87th best receiver in the league. Dede Westbrook had a higher PFF rating of 63.5. So, those aren't – and we saw with Nick Foles. Nick Foles, tried to force feed Chris Conley for some strange reason. He wouldn't throw it vertical to Chark, but would try to force feed Chris Conley, and they were horrible. And they couldn't get anything going or anything like that. So I think we've seen what can happen if you force feed Chris Conley. Then we've seen what can happen when you force feed a guy like DJ Chark. Dede Westbrook's got health issues / confidence issues. Maybe, I mean, maybe he wasn't used the right way. I don't know. But this team is still probably a receiver away from having a complete unit, in my opinion. I mean, and I'm a big believer in Libiscus Chanel. I think he can be a good player, but I think he's a slot guy. I think he's a gadget guy that comes around on jet sweeps and end arounds and even direct snaps even. But, like, give him the ball in space, have him make some plays with the ball in his hand. DJ Chark, I think you're still missing that number 2, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think, well, you have Libiscus that can do all that, but I think you got a lot of guys that can do a lot of different things too.
I mean, you got to have 3 receivers nowadays. Jags have 1. That's the bottom line. Like, we all hope Chanel is going to be the guy. We all hope Westbrook can bounce back. We all hope, Keelan Cole can bounce back, but we have 1 right now.
I would disagree with that. I don't know. I have higher hopes than most for this.
Treeb, how do you disagree? We look at their stats. Look at they're horrible. They're horrible. DJ Chark's the only guy who's good.
The stats,
not good.
The PFF grades. The PFF.
I'm looking at the grades right here. How about look at the stats? How many yards did he have? I mean, it's
around 800. It's around 800. Dude,
Minshew can extend plays with his feet. Receivers should be able to get more yards and more catches with a quarterback like that, and they're not. And they haven't. They've never. But I mean, Westbrook.
When you get a 6th-round rookie quarterback in there, you're not expecting to have 2 1,000-yard receivers.
But you're also not expecting.
You're not even expecting to have 1.
You're not expecting a 6th-round quarterback to do what he did with the Jaguars and have a great year. And you can't excuse everything for they're young or they had a young quarterback. At some point, players got to make plays. And it's not even that they weren't making plays. These dudes weren't getting open. If it was like, okay, they were open and Minshew wasn't hitting them, or there was bad throws, like, okay, yeah, or, but these guys are dropping the ball. These guys aren't getting open. These guys are like, it's not, they're not that good. They're not. Chark is good. I hope Libiscus is good, but Lee is washed. Westbrook's probably done. Keelan Cole is MIA. It is what it is. Like, I'm not trying to rain on your parade, but I'm trying to be a realist.
We'll pull this video up back in December when we're in the playoffs.
I would love to be proved wrong. I would love to be proved wrong.
I don't know. I think I have a really funny feeling about Chris Conley. I really do. I don't know. There's something about him where, like, the team on social media is really just loving Chris Conley. And he did, in my opinion, more than expected that he was supposed to do last year. He got 800 yards, got signed to an extension. He's going to do what he needs to do. Libiscus is a guy that we drafted that was supposed to be a first-round talent, and he's going to ball out, and a lot of people know that. And you got guys like Keelan Cole, Dede Westbrook, who, if those guys can't get open, they'll be there. They're open. You got guys like Tyler Eifert, James O'Shaughnessy, too, at the tight end position that I think are going to be, real difference makers as well.
Yeah, I mean, you have to – it's not fair to mention it without mentioning Tyler Eifert, because Eifert is a receiver. I mean, you can call him a tight end all you want, but what Tyler Eifert does now is he's a receiver. He does not line up on the line of scrimmage ever anymore, like next to the lineman. He's a receiver. And so I think you do get something out of Eifert, but it's red zone threat. It's jump balls. It's quick outs, things like that, which help Minshew and are good things. And that does add to it. And, and that is fair to add that in. But I mean, you're looking at these grades for these receivers, man. I mean, CJ Board looked better than Dede Westbrook and Chris Conley did last year. Like, when CJ Board was in, you were like, oh, here we go. Here's something. Like, he'd make a catch and get some. It seemed like, these guys just aren't what they were supposed to be or used to be. And I think with Libiscus Chanel, I don't think anyone thinks he's a bad player. I think the only knock on him is his injury proneness.
Because he would have been a first-round pick if he didn't have that.
He's been injured. And he's that guy that's like, oh, everyone, I'm going to go to Colorado instead of a big-time school, and I'm going to be a Wildcat quarterback. It reminds me of a lot of guys who don't pan out. Denard Robinson, guys like that are flashy, make a lot of plays in college, but when it comes to the big boys running you down and tackling you, your body can only do so much. And
I've been known around the community as being way too optimistic, so maybe that's Treeb being too optimistic. So I don't know.
And look, I'm with you. I'm an optimistic guy too. I get called that all the time, and I think that's our job. I mean, people don't watch us to see doom and gloom. That's what you can watch the national media for. You know, people want some optimism. They want some hope. You know, and that's what we give. But you're not going to hear me say it out of the wide receiver position. Is all I'm saying. I mean, we had a question. We asked on Twitter, what's the biggest strengths and what's the biggest weaknesses on this team? Like for me, for weaknesses, I was seriously considering wide receiver as our biggest weakness position because
the whole team or the whole offense?
Out of the whole team. I mean, I'm going through everything, and I got solid starters everywhere. Wide receiver 2. Who's your starter at wide receiver 2?
So you're gonna say wide receiver is a weaker position on the team than the safety position?
Well, the safety position, I like Ronnie Harrison.
Defensive back.
Honestly, I'm a bigger kind of how you feel about the receivers is how I kind of feel about the defensive backs. Like they're better, and it's not even that they're better; it's that they're young. Their average age of the defensive backs is 23 and a half.
That's how I feel about the receivers. The
receivers aren't young. Chris Conley's 28.
Besides Chris Conley, DJ Chark's like 24.
How old is Dede Westbrook? He was like the 15-year. He played in the league, college for like 10 years. He played in college for like 10 years. Look, these guys are. I mean, it's not a young team. I mean, these guys are not young. Keelan Cole's not young. Chark is young. Chanel is young. But look, like I was saying, to me, a starting receiving core is 3 guys. We have one. We have one proven receiver on this team that's like, okay, that's a good starter. On the DBs, at least Ronnie Harrison's good. At least C.J. Henderson's going to be good. You know, that's 2. At least that's 2. You know, Gerard Wilson got a contract extension, played more snaps than any defensive backs, led the team in tackles. You know, you got Trey Herndon. Who knows? He's got good size, but I mean, it's definitely stronger.
People are so hot and cold on Ronnie Harrison.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the thing. The reason why is because he misses tackles, and like he tries to like destroy people. I mean, like doesn't wrap up, and like that really frustrates people because then you see the guy get like 10 more yards, and you're like, dude, Ronnie, just wrap up. But he's getting better. I mean, Nick Saban always talks about how he struggled reading the quarterbacks when he was younger, but he's gotten a lot better at that. Hits hard, reads the plays, tackles, can play both the strong and the free safety position. I like Ronnie Harrison. We'll see what the 2 guys, obviously the undrafted guys, Trey Herndon and Gerard Wilson, are, you know, you never know what you're going to get out of them. But at least you got 2. At least you got 2 DBs. You got 1 receiver.
At least every receiver's been drafted, except Keelan Cole.
Keelan Cole?
Keelan Cole, all right. He led the team in receiving yards 1 year.
Well, Dede Westbrook, a 4th-round pick, and then Chark is a 2nd-round pick. Yeah, you know, Chenault 2nd. You know, no 1st-round picks, though. I mean, at least you got a 1st-round pick on the DBs, you know? So, I mean, it's they're both not incredibly strong positions, but at least at DB, your average age is 23. That's good. Like, that's what you want. That's why 2021 is probably their window. And in 2021, I guarantee you, only 2 of those receivers we've named on this entire podcast will be on the team in 2021. Maybe C.J. Board. Maybe 3. Because I like C.J. Board.
Yeah, what's your deal with C.J. Board?
Low-key, I like C.J. Board, bro. He's the guy that, like, he doesn't play very many snaps. I mean, how many snaps did he play? 36. He played 36 snaps, okay? Not that many. But every time he's on the field, you notice him. And you're like, oh, dang, C.J. Board. He just kind of had a good play there. I like C.J. Board.
Okay, so we're gonna get off the. I want to get
off CJ Board. You don't talk about CJ Board anymore,
dude. I don't
give the man some respect,
dude. You would hate to watch my receiver outlook video because right at the beginning, I'm like, I'm not gonna talk about CJ Board. That's like I say that in the first minute and a half.
If there's one thing about our videos / podcasts that we do, it's there's always one randomly obscure player that will make a reoccurring theme throughout the video.
Every single fucking
absolutely. Yeah.
I wish we were making videos back in like 2013 because we'd be like, dude, Alan Ball, bro. Like,
there's no dude. When you were talking about receiving cores of all time, do you remember when we had like Jarrett Dillard?
Jarrett Dillard.
There was like 3 guys drafted that year. Mike Sims Walker was playing then.
Mike
Thomas from Arizona. Yeah. It was just that most like random scrub group of receivers that everyone like convinced themselves were going to be good.
Maybe I'm doing the same thing. Maybe that's what I'm doing right now.
All right, thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed that video. Make sure to like and subscribe to YouTube so you get a notification every time that we have a new video out. We're super excited. Our podcasts are going to be continuing. We should have Joey on next week. We have a bunch of Joey fans out there. Tell us what you thought about the video in the comments. Give us a thumbs up. And as always, go Jags.